Welcome to the final live session on Oak and Rock Fatherhood in 2021. We are ending the year talking fatherhood, and Anthony and I, we realized we reference the men in FoE quite a bit. We talk about the fatherhood Zooms, we talk about the men doing great things. It only makes sense to end the year with the men we've been talking with all year long about being a great father. So we're going to dive right into it. On today's panel, we've got Anthony Migliorino, Zac Phillips, Jared McLean, and Jimmy G. These men are staples in the FoE fatherhood community. They're staples in the fatherhood just discussion at large. You know, we've had many discussions on many different topics with these men, and now we're just going to talk about the end of the year. This is a more laid back, chill session where we're not going to go deep into the weeds on the theory behind raising them peacefully and all these things. We're going to talk about 2021. It was a wild year for many, yet looking around this panel, I can see every single one of these men have improved themselves as well as with their family. And it's not a secret. There's nothing special about what they're doing except the fact that they're being intentional with what they're doing. Before we kick that off, Anthony, what's up, brother? We are wrapping up our first year with this thing. Oak and Rock came to life in 2021, and we're about to enter 2022. Thoughts on your first? You had peacefulfathers.com, and now you've got this, which is kind of like our platform for the podcast discussions. How you feeling?
I'm feeling excellent. No, this is good, man. It's good to be a part of. I really enjoy the conversations we've been having, the guests we've had on, watching this thing start to grow and raise awareness of how important fathers are, how important fatherhood is, and, how important it is to be a good dad. And it's great to have these three men on to further the discussion. And, I look forward to 2022. Big things are coming.
You mentioned seeing it spread out, those ripples spread. The messages we've been getting, the content with the guys, the discussions we've been having. I mean, two of these men on here have been a part of the Oak and Rock discussion. First time Oak and Rock, longtime friend at FoE brother, and multiple TFA face, Jimmy G. I'm looking forward to having you guys back. But you guys are a part of that. When we talk about, hey, the ripples spreading, these guys like, oh, you had a great discussion. We don't always run and say, oh, hey, Jared, this guy messaged me about the podcast we did with you. We're just like, oh, thank you. We answer questions, but you're a part of that. And each one of us is a piece on that bigger movement that we're doing. And so as one man, you're a drop. Right now we've got 5 men. That's 5 drops. You get that to 500. We're making bigger moves, but it all starts with us. So we're going to throw this around the table. One of our men has somewhere to be with his family. So Jared, you're going to get the mic first. How was your 2021 with regards to the family? And what do we have coming down the pipeline for 2022?
2021... I was just thinking about how I could try to wrap that up. One of the things that I think is the coolest part of my 2021, actually everything about 2021 originates with 2020. The biggest change to our family was my oldest son got married in 2020. So 2021 was the first full year that we had without him being in the house, with him being married and living on his own and having a wonderful daughter-in-law be part of our family. So that was one of the coolest things about 2021 was that we got to have this long extended period of this growth, watching my son become his own independent family and watching him move on from and see how he still interacts with us and he still values conversations with us and still wants to have advice and help and things like that. It's been an amazing experience. The other part of 2021, which was great for me, was in 2020 was when I had some very, very negative experiences with my daughter. She did a few things and there was some actions there that really caused some friction in the family, and I reacted very poorly to start off with. And through the help of some other men from FoE, Anthony among them, I was able to reel it back in, get myself under control, and start rebuilding that relationship. And so 2021 saw win after win after win with my daughter, where she was coming to me for advice, where she was coming to me when she had problems and she wanted to confide in me about some of the problems she was having. And it culminated towards the end of the year with us planning a humanitarian trip for her benefit, because she wanted to do one. And she could choose to have either my wife or myself go with her. And she chose me. So I thought that was really, really cool. And that sort of showed me how much we had progressed in our relationship with her. Another aspect of 2021 that I really am happy with was that we started to realize that we needed, this sounds so silly. We realized that we had to do the same thing with our other son, Gavin. Because of the issues with Sabrina, we had emphasized with her. Because of Caleb getting married, we had emphasized with him. And Gavin got kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. And that's not right. That he doesn't deserve that. And we didn't deserve to do that to him. And so now it's building that relationship with him again and letting him find his voice. So this year has been about that struggle to remember what's important and to re-emphasize how important those relationships are, and watching the successful ones out in front and then chasing along behind with the other ones, and watching them grow just as strong. So it's been a really tremendous year for me personally, even though there were some struggles as well. Moving into 2022, we don't really have goals the way you would normally see it. I think it's just a continuation of those same principles. We need to continue to work on and foster that relationship with my daughter. I'm not giving up on that. I'm not saying that it's great. It's better than it ever was, but it still needs lots of work. I need to reemphasize my relationship with my son, Gavin. And, my son, Caleb, it's kind of like he's on his own. I don't have to worry about him as much anymore. But also my wife and I, we've started to discover that we need to keep in even tighter communication than we ever have been, because with teenagers, they're going everywhere and we can barely keep track of them. So that relationship between me and her needs to become even closer, even tighter, and our communication needs to be ramped up. So all of 2022 is just going to be continuing to refine, continuing to stress the importance of relationships across the board. The realization that I had in 2021 that helped me solidify all that stuff was the idea that we treat our best friends better than we treat our family sometimes. You're more delicate with the relationships you have with your best friends because they're not your family, and so you treat them with extra care. But who's more important, your friends or your genetic heritage? Which is more important? And so that triggered that in me that I can't treat my kids like I used to. I have to treat them like they're my best friends. And I have to treat those relationships more delicately. And so that realization in 2021 is something I'm going to continue to work on for 2022. And as a family, we are going to continue to work on that. I'm teaching them about those ideas as well. And it's starting to take hold. We're starting to see it make inroads for both my kids and my wife.
You're muted.
You're muted, Zach. Didn't hear a word you said.
Wanted to give a shout out to Texas Dom. Big Tex in the chat he said that struggles are good. And some people hear that
Yes.
and it's almost like the masochism, like, oh, I love the pain.
No.
And that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is these struggles is an opportunity for you to see an area you may have overlooked. You may have been very strong in, and because you were strong, you moved on, and then slowly it slipped until you're like, oh, I've got to come back and build that back up.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found a way to, when you identify these issues, you mentioned the ones with your children and realize you got to shift the attention. How did you go from that's an issue because I've got so much in my life to, hey, I can easily, this is an issue and an opportunity to better connect? How did you keep it positive when it comes across as a negative?
That was a thing I had to develop into. When we first started having our problems with my daughter, with her behavior and some of the things that were going on, it was devastating to me personally, because I had those thoughts. Didn't I raise her right? Didn't I teach her better than that? Haven't I shown her a better example than what she's doing? How frustrating and angry I was that somehow I had failed as a father. That's how it felt. And that's not the case, but that's how it felt. And then that struggle was, okay, if it wasn't my failure as a parent, and if it is, where was the failure? What can I change? What can I do differently? And so that was when I started to notice, okay, yeah, I need to change the direction of our relationship. I need to change the trajectory that we're heading with this relationship. And again, I had lots of help with that from other men that clued me in on what I was being stupid about. And through the refinement of that was when we started to realize, okay, this is going well. This is working well. Now, if this is working well, and we needed it to be working well first, if that's working well, where else does it need to be applied? And so that was when we were like, oh, crap. Well, we have another son. we need to figure that one out too. So it was more evolutionary than revolutionary. That the initial steps were revolutionary, but then we had to evolve it to encompass the whole family as opposed to just being focused on one thing.
I like the way that you sort of reframed that one, because, and there are a lot who in 2021, they started finding their way, and then there's sort of an evolution to it. It's like lifting. You hit a certain plateau and you're like, why am I stuck? Maybe you need to rest. Maybe you need to recover. Maybe you need to hit the supporting muscles there. And, again, to how you broke that one down, I mean, your kids are older than mine. So it's an opportunity for me to see through you ways that I can improve my training program. So when I get there, I'm going to hit different issues. I'm not going to repeat the issues you've hit. I'll hit different ones. And the guy following me will miss mine, but then he'll find his own. And that's the point of doing this in Oak and Rock. That's the point of swapping the notes. That's why we're having this discussion. Early on, Anthony mentioned, watching it take root and start to spread and seeing the message change. And I'm constantly trying to objectively assess, is this an echo chamber or are we actually making progress? And I try that 10,000 foot view. And there are more people that are thinking, maybe I should look at parenting a little more intentionally. And as you said, I think this is a very powerful thing I would love for people to take home. Why am I treating friends better than family? Why will you drop, if I give you a call, why would you be like, hey, Zach, I'll talk at 1 a.m. I'll come and help you out, man. But your kid's like, hey, Dad, will you sit and read with me? Oh, I don't have time. That's not how we should treat our kids. But that's how many parents, they're so focused on being a good person to these things that maybe they take their kids for granted. Maybe that's the issue there. Is like, oh, of course they know I love them.
Yeah, it comes from more of a sense of the fragility versus permanence. Your best friend, if you were to go to your best friend and say, listen, if you don't clean up your act, we're done here, or I'll, you're going to have to pay me $5 for every time you do that. Your friend be like, no, I'm out of here. And so you know that intuitively, but with your family, it's like, you do what I say because you're my kid. You're always going to be here. You can't change the fact that I'm your father. And so you have this sort of ownership approach that you want to mold it into something that you want, as opposed to a friendship where you're like, I just want that person to be with me. I just want them I want to feel that connection. Well, if you start treating your family the same way and say, okay, I want to feel that same connection. I don't want to force them into doing the things that I want them to do. I want us to enjoy things together. And that's where it had broken down with my daughter, which was I felt like she should be doing the things that I wanted her to do. She wanted to do the things she wanted to do. And so we had to find common ground. And I had to say, okay, do your thing and let me participate with you, or at least let me be there and share with you, if not necessarily participate in it. But that was the big realization change for me, that those relationships need to be emphasized with equal care the way we treat our friends.
On the tricky part too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the tricky part too can be that our kids may not be so obvious with an ask for our time or for wanting to be with us, right? Like you said, Zach, if our kids say, if you called Jared up at 1 a.m, hey, I'll be there kind of thing. But if his daughter said, hey, will you read to me? But rare is it that obvious. Hey, will you spend time? the message is still, will you spend time with me? But it might be an outburst. It might be some sort of tantrum from a 2-year-old. It might be, right. So it will look in ways that isn't obvious because, they want our attention. They want us to be with them, but it's never that straightforward. Like, yes, Dad, here's my request, formalized request in triplicate of that I would like to spend time with you, or I would like you to spend time with me, kind of thing. So, sometimes we can perceive those messages as something different than what they really are.
That's really well said, especially in the sense where that is, unless you're paying attention, you don't even realize it's being said to you. And actually, Wolfman dropped a great one, and it works well with what I was going to ask Zac. So, Zac, this is coming your way. Be ready. Wolfman says, I think it's ultimately an intimacy issue. Many men have difficulty connecting, so they tend to avoid the more difficult things. And while we talk about intimacy and being an open and caring and loving father, it goes against the inclination of the message of be a masculine man, be a leader, be a worker. Anthony's addressed this 1,000 times. Work harder. That's what's his advice with new kids. He's like, yo, that means leave the house all the time. Zac, you have probably the youngest child. You have the youngest child out of all of us in the panel. And you, being in the capacity of what your job is, the mission that you're on, as well as just how you carry yourself as a man, how are you finding a way to connect with a baby?
This is going to sound really simple, but it literally get on her level. She doesn't have the capacity to talk, so all of her communication is nonverbal. She's a year old. So a lot of the connection comes from time spent rather than words said. And actually, as far as that actually ties into how I was going to lay this out. My 2021, I started my life with my daughter 2 months after she was born because I was on a deployment. So my 2020 and my 2021 all blended together. So I get home and now I have to learn to connect with someone who's already built a relationship with my wife as an infant. And she's 2 months old. I didn't have that. I wasn't there for her birth. I wasn't there for any of the pregnancy, except for the very, very, very beginning of it, obviously. And so I think a lot of my connection with her is focused on her understanding that I'm a safe place, that I'm always going to be there for her. And right now that is literally just being present, being on the floor, literally at her level, spending time playing with whatever she's playing with or reading to her every night. That's our thing. Like I do bedtime every night with no exception. Sometimes my duties, maybe I'm not at home, but every night we get done with dinner, do bath time, get her changed for bed, and we spend 15, 20 minutes reading, and then we play until it's time for her to go to bed. So when you don't have children that are old enough to speak, the connection really is about the time you spend and the quality of that time, not just sitting on the floor with your phone while she's doing her thing, but actually engaging with her.
Well, the relationship or our capacity for relationship isn't limited to what we say or, even some of the things we do. Sometimes it's just being there with, right? So being
Absolutely.
with your baby, even though she can't say a word, right? You can still have a connection or still build a connection with your kids because, that's the way our systems, our nervous systems and our brains and all those things work. We can sympathize with others. We can mimic what they're doing and by extension, understand what they're thinking or feeling, or at least have some idea.
Absolutely. I must be doing something right too, because the only word she can say so far is dada. So
Jared, I know you got to pop smoke. I'm going to throw the football your way.
Actually, I want to say a very strange thing to Zac, which he may not know, but one of the primary ways that young kids bond with their caregivers is through the sense of smell. So,
really?
Yeah. So actually spending time holding them, being close to them will help you bond with them because they get that scent, and that is comforting to them. There's some very deep physiological aspects of that too, but you're spending time with their close proximity is a huge way to bond with a young child. So yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
I don't
Fantastic.
really have any great words of wisdom to close out with, other than just to say
That was a cool
Uh,
fact, though. I didn't
That
know
was
that.
it is a
Yeah.
cool fact.
We're gonna take it, Brand. We're gonna take that one
I'm
probably.
full of all kinds of useless information. That's what my kids tell me all the time. But I'm just happy that I'm able to share a little bit of the experience that I've had, so that, as Zac was saying, hopefully somebody gets to miss those experiences that I had and experience something totally different. So I'm happy to, if there's ever a question of more of the details, happy to dive into that at some other future time. But looking forward to 2022 and continuing to build on what we did in 2021.
Yeah, buddy. Got to keep it going.
Later,
Have
guys.
fun. Take care, brother.
Bye, Jared.
Later, Jared.
All right, Jimmy. We're talking 2021 heading into 2022. You know what I love about you, your content. I mean, I like every time something's popping up on your channel, I'm like, yeah, like they're still doing it with the music, the girls, yourself. How have you found a way to have such a positive time with your little ladies during a year where everybody kept telling us how bad it was?
That's it. That's a
You guys crushed it.
yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, it's really, in a lot of ways, it's a continuation of a goal. Something I set to mind back in 2019 really is, how do I, at that time I was coming off of a divorce, so how do I forge a strong relationship with my daughters? And there's some other ancillary things that went with that, but basically it's, certainly peaceful parenting has helped. And maybe the biggest thing is finding ways to give them a sense of choice in a situation like divorce, where they have no choice, they have no power, and they have nothing, right? You can imagine how powerless my daughters would feel, or any kid would feel, because the family they know is destroyed. And so how can I find ways to give them choice, look for opportunities to say yes to things? Sometimes the answer is no, but so on balance, I think that kind of sums up 2021. There's lots of, you know building of a foundation of the previous couple years that helped be 2020, but certainly 2021 be a little bit more stable or secure in ways that, because it's the same, there's something that's consistent and something secure, something that they know and are familiar with. But there were certainly some new challenges. My oldest moved up to the junior high from elementary school, so there's some changes there. Certainly they're involved in music, but they also uh, in 2021 they started BJJ, they started volleyball, they started basketball. So it's, all these sorts of things, new challenges, but also new opportunities for me to bond with them, to help guide them, teach them. And uh there there's lots of times where they get to a point, BJJ, they you know get tapped out or whatever, or they lose a volleyball game or lose a basketball game and think the world's over and they suck and all this sort of stuff. But it's an opportunity to step in and say, well, hey, I really appreciate, certain principles. I appreciate the hard work it took. You were running up and down the court, or you were doing this. I appreciate, uh, many times I would, my oldest won some small scholarship thing, but instead of congratulating her for that, I said, that's great and all, but I really admire the hard work. So there's lots of new opportunities for me to find ways to, you know, continue the peaceful parenting thing, but then also forge a stronger relationship and a stronger bond with them. That's not to say I didn't trip over my own feet sometimes and and screw up, but even then is an opportunity I can teach them and go, hey, I made a mistake, I apologize, but have a meaningful apology where it's like, hey, I expect you guys to behave this way. I didn't behave that way, so I need to apologize to you guys. And so, that's been good. It's solid feedback from them, and looking forward to continuing that in 2022 and really push that even more. How can I find ways to give them power and choice, and how can I, really strengthen that relationship so that later, years from now, they can come to me and when shit goes sideways.
I guess the mic was dropped. Nobody could pick it up. I'm gonna grab it and run with it, man. Look, I can run this thing all night. Let's do it, Jimmy. When you were going through all this, you were looking at, all right, here's where we're at. Here's some adjustments that could make some fine tuning, maybe some polishing on things. How did you prevent yourself, or how did you keep yourself, looking, and how people get caught up in that self improvement where they're constantly looking to be better and constantly looking to push the needle, and they sometimes forget, hey, this is a learning process together. The girls are learning and you're learning. You meet each other and then you take a step together again. And then they figure some things out. You're like, all right, now we work on this together. And it's a team thing instead of a me versus you thing. How did you keep that from happening? Because that is also something we see in men who are looking to improve, but all of a sudden it turns into, I get my pitchforks out, you got yours out, and we're both in trenches. And it's like nobody wants to go across no man's land.
Yeah, and maybe some of this is having done the work. So on top of everything else, there's a ton of work that I've done on myself coming out of the divorce, going back a few years. So there's all kinds of work I've done on myself emotionally. Anthony, Zac, all of us talk about this all the time, where if you want to be a better father, a better husband, better in your career, etc., become a better man. And so there's lots of things that I've done there that have helped me manage my emotions or help keep me in check. And I think in some ways too, help me appreciate how far I've come. I know where I was at. But specifically when it comes to the girls and raising them, if there are times where I may realize I made a mistake or think I made a mistake, and certainly I can reach out to any of the men here or in the fraternity, even some friends. But sometimes I turn to them and say, hey guys, yesterday or the other day when I said this, or when maybe that wasn't, I feel bad about that, so I wanted to talk about it. And sometimes coming back to it after the fact, right, there's less emotion than in the moment, and so it's an opportunity to have just have a discussion. And doing the work that I've done over the last few years, the girls kind of know, you don't get in trouble in this house, we just talk about stuff. So we'll have a conversation about it, we'll figure it out. I tell them I'm trying to be the best dad that I can, and sometimes I'm going to make mistakes, and they're doing what they can to be the best they can be, but sometimes they make mistakes. And I think together, maybe in some ways, me showing that, hey, I'm human. I'm just a guy, even though I'm their dad and I have some life experience on them. I'm still human and I make mistakes. And I think that helps the girls too open up a little bit more, and we can all be sort of vulnerable in that way together.
That's huge. I actually have a really good example of that. And a lot of men, they think very grand on what we're talking about. We were out to eat last night, and we were sitting at this, it was a nice restaurant. These weren't cheap meals. And we're sitting there, and my son, he knows what he likes. He's like, oh, I'm going to get the chicken parm. Well, they didn't have chicken parm. So he's just looking around the menu. He's like, oh, out of nowhere, he's like, I'm getting the shrimp and grits. And we're all like, what? like you've never had that. Why do you, whatever, go ahead, order it. And when he got it, he was like, nope, not eating this. And I'm just looking over, I'm like, oh man. So he's picking at it. I offer some bread, whatever. He's like, no, I ordered this, I'll try. And he did. And I could tell there was like this underlying tone that they thought I was having an issue. So my wife looked at me, she's like, it's good, he'll figure something out. And I was like, guys, I fully support you guys trying things. I was like, and there are times where you're going to try something and it's not going to work out. And so for the people watching this, these are just your normal everyday interactions, but these little moments, they mean a little bit more. And in that moment, I looked right at him. I'm like, bud, I know you don't like that. It probably tastes like trash. Like, you can have my steak if you want, like whatever. Like, I'll eat that, tomorrow. Actually, I had it today. So that was my lunch and it was amazing. I was like, dude, you don't know what you missed. But the point was, I wanted to recognize it immediately. I wanted him to know openly, I have ordered things too, man. And, I'm glad you tried that. It's the only way that you like it or you don't. It's good to try new things. He did what I wanted him to do. He went outside of his comfort zone and he tried something. And to me, that was a win. So I wasn't upset at all about what was going on. And it's cool to add another member to the panel. We got Mr. Marcel over there.
Jesus.
That I need to mute. But hey, as you did that, it's what you're saying, Jimmy. We're gonna have slip ups. We make mistakes, but the more we can share with them our mistakes, the more comfortable they'll feel. Like, oh, it's all right that this happened, and then they're more comfortable coming to you when they do slip up. And isn't that the point of this? Isn't that why we're doing the Oak and Rock and why we're doing the Fatherhood? Is for our kids to come to us. We want them to feel comfortable in our presence. We want them to feel they can bring issues our way. I mean, that's why we build this relationship, because when things are pushed into the dark, they fester, and all of a sudden you have issues that if they had been comfortable right when it kicked off, that big ass, snowball and avalanche, it could have just been a little drop in the bucket, but it got bigger because it festered.
Well, and if they can't do those things or experience those sorts of mistakes or failures in a safe environment like the home or in our presence, then they're not going to try those things sort of out in the world. They're going to be extra cautious out in the world, right? So it's always interesting, and I know we've talked about it a lot, that we always expect our kids to be to grow up to be strong, independent adults, especially as a father of daughters, right? It's cliche now that it's like, oh, my girls are going to be strong, independent women kind of thing. When the reality is for most of their formative years of their lives, we demand control and obedience and all those sorts of things, and kind of do things in a way to prevent them from being authentic and all those sorts of things. So, it's one of those things where the more we can provide them, our kids, that opportunity to make mistakes, to fall flat on their face, to try things, to experiment, and without the sort of judgment or consequences that maybe their peers or others may think, that will be huge when they're older, when they're adults.
To piggyback off that, before we get too far removed from the little moments thing, something I often use, and I'm trying to relate stuff to my leadership from my time in the military, is that the little issues to the big people are often big issues to the little people in our lives. Our little people actually do have these issues that to us, it's like, okay, but you didn't like your shrimp and grits, no big deal, whatever. But to them, it's like kind of a big thing, like, hey, I tried something new. What if dad's going to be mad because he's paying money for me to eat, whatever. And so they overthink these things, and it's like, to us, it's no big deal, but to them, it's like, this is huge. Like, what do I do? And we have to take a step back, and in those little moments, recognize that our little problems may be a bigger problem for them, and address it at an appropriate level in relation to them, and understanding that, hey, this is a big deal for you. You just don't have that 10,000 foot view, like Zac mentioned earlier. You don't have that view that, hey, in the grand scheme of things, no one cares that you didn't like your shrimp and grits, dude. It's all good.
That's exactly right. I love that you use that as the example too.
It's the power of fatherhood. To be certain, right? We need to be aware that we have that choice in those moments. That's our role as being a leader. With Zac's son, with the shrimp and grits, traditionally we see fathers get upset, right? They make the kid feel bad. They put guilt on them. They scream, they yell, you're going to be punished. You're wasting money. We dump all this excess garbage on them. But in that moment, we have a choice, right? We can say, how are we going to respond to this? Are we going to let it affect us? Or we're going to get upset? Or are we going to make a child feel bad for making a choice that didn't live up to, right? For making a mistake or making an error. So it's important that we understand that, right? We are in charge. We're the father. Make those choices, make better choices, continually over and over and over again, right? That's what I do every year, 2021, 2022. I know I'm going to have setbacks. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I know things aren't always going to go right. But the whole mindset of my family is to never give up, right? Bad things happen. And we keep moving forward because it's a choice that we make as a family. And those are lessons, whether I think that I'm going down the right path and things are great and I'm growing and I'm getting stronger and I want my kids to follow me. I don't force them. I let them make the choice by my examples. So many fathers are so afraid of their kids failing that they're using these inappropriate ways and tactics to get them to do what they want, whether it's ordering the right meal or, similar to what Jared was talking about earlier, is when we know something to be true or something that we want kids to embrace or fully, accept their lives, we have to allow them at their own pace, at different ages, at different stages. We need to stop forcing them to fit and shape into a mold that we think is appropriate at all times. And I guarantee you, listening to you men tell you stories and how things are getting better and how your families are coming closer and connected, this is, to me, it's not out of the ordinary. This is what fathers should be doing. We shouldn't be talking about how shitty our kids are and how they don't listen and how they're overreactive and how they never go to bed and how they eat like shit. Those are problems. Solve them. Stop being a fucking victim. Talk to other fathers who are on the path of getting shit done. And, that's what I see with these men every Thursday. This is what we do. This is what this fatherhood, this masculine, this powerful stuff.
What I love most when you get going and, like that fire kicks in is it just flows, man. It's like you shift gears and it's like you're hitting third and fourth and fifth. It's like, woof, it takes off. That's incredibly important, though, that individuals understand when we talk about this, we live this. This is coming from, we discussed it and then we go out and then we have a discussion, we apply it, and we come back and, hey, gents, here are my results. That normalizes the discussion around fatherhood. And, we've got 6 on here. There are many others that aren't. We all come together every week to do this. Some dudes haven't done this one time in a year. Not in 2021, they have not had a single discussion on fatherhood or how they could improve. And it's my hope by stumbling across this, they learn some things, because that's why we do what we're doing. But when I look at you guys, when Jared down there, who he just left to go somewhere and now he's in the chat, like that's commitment. That's what I'm talking about. But he said, never minimize a child's problems. Anthony, you said, I know there's going to be issues. I think that is one of the strongest positions a man can take, because when it happens, you don't feel like, oh, this isn't fair. That never enters your mind that I'm a victim. Like, no, I know something's going to happen. High, small, 15 things, it doesn't matter. Something will happen. We have to stop thinking, though, that because we're bigger, our problems mean more. Our children are smaller, and their problems may be perceived by us in our 30s and older as, it's not a big deal that you get kicked off the playground club. No, dude, that's their world. That's all they have. And if somebody kicks my kid out of the playground club, stand by. We're going to build a new playground. But for real, when you go down to your kid's level, like you were saying, Zach, earlier, and you meet them and you see them like, hey, I see you, and this is an issue, and let's talk about it, and treat their playground club the same way you would treat another man talking about getting fired from his job or getting kicked out of like the group that he was in. That is the level of respect we have to give our children. But you won't do it. It's just, it's cool timing here with Tech saying, I wish I'd known this when my kids were little. You have the opportunity now to come across this YouTube video and apply it. You can apply this to your kid's life. Don't be the dad who sat and watched an hour or so of a YouTube video and you walked away and you were still a horrible dad. You didn't think about applying anything. What was the point of watching us if not to apply this information? It's why we're here. It's meant to be applied. We have 2 new men on the panel, though. So we've got Marcel and Big J. Marcel rocking the fantastic beanie. It's great to see you, brother. How was your 2021, and what do you have coming down the pipeline for 2022?
2021 was terrific. I think, I shared this with the other Zach a while back. I think 2020 for me was a little bit of defense. It was defense for everyone, right? A lot of change, a lot of surprises. My focus, when I really look at my whole year, and I wouldn't say this lightly, I really do think that the focus of my year has been my kids. And I say that proudly. I mean it in a way that I've got so much right now when you reflect of where I was last year this time to where I am now. I feel like I have such a foundation for even days where I'm not my best self, right? Days where maybe things happen with work or travel, or maybe I'm underslept or whatever it might be. I've got kind of a buffer around me of know-how that I didn't have previously. And it brings, it really has been able to, my kids solicit me now for things they never normally would have before. I'm kind of, each one of them think I have a secret relationship with them that nobody else knows about, right? Which is terrific. And I've learned I think there's been some spectacular changes in how I act with them. I mean, I'll throw it out really quickly. I think, for much of the early years with my kids, I used to always think that I was chasing an answer, right? Like, something's broken, I've got to fix it. And it was just so binary like that. Like, if you have a problem, here's the answer, and then I'd run away from it. And you know what I think that is? It's just because I didn't really have much confidence probably in what I was doing. I didn't have good men around me. A lot of the stuff that I've gained has not been by me soliciting or even knowing that I was not doing it the right way. It's just being around other guys. I mean, when you hear people shake out on all spectrums of their problems and families and parenting, and it just shakes out in front of you, there's so much to glean from that. And I don't want to frame it as I've benefited from other men's misery, but when you really have smart men leaning forward on saying, there's a comment I think either Anthony or Josh shared a while back, which is, these kids are captive right now. We have them. They rely on us for income. They rely on us for shelter. They're honestly, they're being formed in these early years of their lives. And we have their full attention. And when it was framed like that, to me, it made me realize that, we constantly kind of push things off as, tomorrow I'll deal with it when they're in middle school or high school, or hopefully they'll show up and take care of me when I'm an old man. I mean, that's the access to these children in a positive way, and the platform that we have now when they actually need us, when later they don't need us, and then we're hoping they're going to reach back out to us for counsel. I mean, that changed my whole worldview. And so I would say this is a year of kids for me. 2021 has been tremendous. It bleeds into other things in my life. It makes me want to do more push-ups, drink less, sort of challenge my wife to be a stronger matriarch, which she's already is, in my mind, a better matriarch than I am with a lot of things. And so I think I've got a good basis. When Zac and I talked about what my plans would be for next year, I only really came up with one way of looking at it is I just want to fly. Next year is going to be, so I came out of defense. I learned a lot. I've got a strong foundation now. I want to execute on that foundation. I want to, it could be something, traveling with any one of the individual kids, but I want to make landmark changes for the benefit of each of them. I've got a few things on the radar that I'm going to do for each of them that I've identified, but I want to have something dramatic that I can point to and say, that was when my dad did it. And that's my plan for this next year. Yeah, high level. There's a lot that I've learned, but I feel that I've got a platform to work with now for this next year, and I didn't have it previously.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love the fire. I love fly. Anthony and I did a video on goals we should all have, and one of mine was just more. I was like, what do you mean? No, just more everything. Like all the things I did, I'm going to do more of that thing. I'm really going to refine it, get rid of the distractions, just focus on the stuff I'm trying to build. But you said something too I want to ensure isn't lost on those watching. And that's, you said, you're not enjoying the suffering of others or something along those lines. It's not like you're enjoying that, but you're learning from it. And that is why it's so strong, of a man to say, hey, gents, in a trusted community, here's where I'm struggling and here's the issues I'm having. Because, and I was just talking to Jared, his kids are older than mine. By him admitting a weakness and allowing me to see the hole he fell into, because he's not afraid of judgment or removal of the group for showing that he stumbled sometime, I'm able to see where it is. And therefore, maybe I can put a few controls in place to keep me from tripping where he tripped. We used to have that naturally. The elders of the family would teach the young men, hey, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And we've been fractured. We've been isolated to a very significant degree, and it's detrimental to the family unit, disastrously so, by stripping everybody apart. In your nuclear family, you'll have your 4 people living as individuals just in the same home. And so by being able to share that and by being strong enough and confident enough in yourself to admit it in front of trusted peers, hey, here's where I'm working on fatherhood because maybe I slipped. I want to get better. You're allowing other men to improve. And not only that, you're allowing them to set them up on a higher trajectory. Marcel, I'm going to mute you because you have some traffic going on. But
I'm glad I'm not the only one with background noise.
I was looking over. I'm just glad my mic's on right now, man. I figured out how to use it. Well, we learn from each other. And that's the point of Oak and Rock. That's the point of all this. The oak isn't the tree that grew up perfectly without issues. The oak is strongest when the winds blow hard because it has to go deeper with the roots. It has to withstand that. The stress makes the wood denser, so it's harder. It's just everything's better when you grow around some stress. It's not a bad thing. Stress is okay as long as you have individuals to help you stay upright. And then you grow those roots in your own. And so individually, there are 5 men on here. That's a fist. We are strong individuals in our lives by ourselves. We're an army of one. But you put us together, instead of poking you, I can now punch you. Now there's 5 of us. Now we're stronger. So while each of these are individual fingers and digits, and you can do great things, a fist is better. And so you can do some damage if you can find some fellow men that you can, associate with on a level that's deeper than watching football and drinking beer. But that leads to JL, my sober brother. And speaking about this beer, and 2 men I know on here who will not be having it is me and this guy. Jay, how has your 2021 been, and what do you have coming down the pipeline for 2022?
2021 was really good. Obviously, I had some struggles with the kids and whatnot, but 2021 overall was an excellent year for me. And you did touch on one thing there, and you said about sober. So yeah, I gave alcohol on May the 25th, and life has been fantastic since then. I will say that I didn't have a significant problem with it beforehand, but it really got to a point where I don't feel like my relationship was healthy anymore, and so I dropped it just like that. I had no issue dropping it, and it's been good. And one of the things about that was I didn't want them to see me drunk. I didn't want them to think of their father as a child, and I didn't really see that like, I guess it was one of those things where I always kind of rationalized it beforehand, if you, be jovial around them, I'm having a good time, and I never really did anything terrible, around them and like that, but I just don't think that's the way that I want to be, not only as a man, with my friends, with my family, but definitely with my children. I don't want them to see that. I never saw my dad drunk, and I don't want them to be 6 years old. For the people that are watching, the men that are watching, women that are watching, I have triplets, 2 girls and a boy. They're 8 years old. The boy is on the autism spectrum. That presents a whole other raft of challenges. So all 3 of them are vastly different, and all 3 of them have vastly different needs. And 2021 was a year where I really want to step a little bit and watch them and try and understand it a little more than I was in the past. Before, it was like I was trying to mold them into what I thought to be, to a degree. That's what you have to do as a father. But in order to lead them to the way that you want to raise them, you have to understand what drives them and motivates them. And initially, that started out with my son with autism. I really tried to figure out what made him operate. I know the things he loves. There's creatures and anything in the ocean, submarines, sharks, anything like that. He loves it. So learning what made him tick was a big driver for me this year. I've read a few books. I'm continuing one right now. I'm reading one on autism, and it's given me some real life moments with him. And one thing with him that's hard is feeding. And the girls don't understand. They'll eat better than he will. Like, he's very, very picky. And they didn't understand. I was like, why does he get to eat something different that we don't? Now they're starting to understand it. And I explained to them one day, I said, so going to the grocery store in mom and dad's van, there's a couple different ways we can drive there. And you 2 girls understand that. You understand, we're still going to get to the grocery store. But he doesn't see that. For him, there's only one way to get to the grocery store. And if you go a different way, that shuts everything down for him. And he can't get past that. Like, he's just going to block up. Like, we're not going down this road. We're going down a different road. Oh, we got to go back. We got to go down this road. We got to go down this road to get to the grocery store. And really take baby steps with him with things like that. You have to say, like, we can go here, and have to lead him to finally understand that you're going to get to the grocery store, and by the time he can see it at a distance, that's when he'll realize, okay, I see what's going on here now. And that's what it is with things like food. You can't just say you're going to like this, type of bacon. It's not the brand we usually have. This is a different kind. He'll just like, nope, that's different. I don't want it. You have to really lead him to it. You have to let him actually hold the piece of bacon in his hand. You have to let him smell it. You have to let him taste it. He'll finally realize, I keep this. This is the same thing. So
stop calling it
that was
bacon.
that was kind
That
of
might help him out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confused when you talk about Canadian bacon, brother. What is this? Is this lunch? Is this breakfast? Hey, something funny though. Something that's really funny about you went on a little bit about the sobriety, and with your son being on the spectrum, it's both of those things are kind of in this little special category. I once told Anthony, I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm not drinking, blah blah," and he basically said, like, "Shut the fuck up." He's like, "I don't care. Just handle your shit. We've got work to do." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I don't know why I felt like I had to explain it, or for any reason, maybe I wanted to talk, but I was trying to, open up to the guy, and that's why Jared said he's
be vulnerable.
There I am trying to be open with a group of men, and he's like, "Hey, eat a dick." So I'm like, oh, okay, we just lost monetization, Anthony. It's my bad. But when you look at Jay with that, it's everybody talks about we're in a certain, reality. You're living in a certain way. Why don't my kids just get it? And you know what? The world we're living in isn't the same for all of us. With you and I, we both were like, look, booze aren't good for us. We're normally like party hard, let's go all the way, but it's just not good for either of us. But when you look at your son and you're like, hey, why don't you just get it like this? We're going to go this way. Why does that bother? It doesn't matter. You got to go to his level. It doesn't matter if other people think we should moderate. We know like this is the path we're going to go. In our world, booze doesn't have a home, and that's cool as long as we're doing our work, like Anthony so eloquently said. Same thing with your son. It doesn't matter if everybody thinks, oh, he should just get the bacon's bacon. No, in his world, there's got to be a few more steps, and that's okay. Our kids aren't these cookie cut things that are supposed to be coming out of a factory for us to go. They are little individuals whose cells are constantly changing. Their minds are working differently than ours. Their experiences are completely unique to ours. They aren't us as kids. They are children. They are their own children as kids. And so for us to get to their level, each one of even triplets, that's 3 of the same, right? As you are well aware, it is not. Anybody with twins, it is not. Each of these kids is a unique little entity, even though damn well, like almost as far as you can get to the molecular level, they're identical, except they're not. And so that proves the point significantly that we can't, as parents, expect our kids to just get it. No, mom and dad, show them how they can get it.
Yeah, well,
Right,
it's just because they can understand the language doesn't mean that they really can make the connections we've made or can extrapolate or do all these things, right? It's like we think they have an adult brain just because they understood that I said, you need to put your clothes away or finish your dinner or let's have cake, like whatever the thing is, right? But they understand those words, but they can't always put that together. And that's, I think that gets lost on us sometimes because we think they think like us when they really don't.
I like how Zac said that his phone's dying and he's about to fall off. And then you said, no, Zac, I'm going first, no matter what you say. Yep. So Zac, I'll be the courteous one here and I'm going to throw you the mic before it dies on you mid-sentence.
I appreciate that. So real quick, I'm just going to leave with this. What you're talking about right now with kids being individuals, that concept is countercultural. But everything we're doing here and everything we stand for here in pretty much every way is countercultural. When you recognize that your child is an individual, well, the world doesn't want them to be an individual. They want them to be just like everybody else. And our job as fathers is to raise our kids to understand who they are and their value as that individual and to guide them on a path to make their individuality an asset to them and to the people around them. So before I peace out, just for 2022, keep in mind that to be a strong masculine father is to go against everything that the world, as it were, stands for. And when things get hard, that's not the time to lean back and go, oh, I guess I'm doing too much. No, you're not doing enough at that point because you're still encountering resistance. You have to keep moving forward.
Oh, shit. I did not kick him out. I did not kick him out.
I was going to say, I'm starting to like that guy.
That's a mic
He
drop
literally
right there.
landed that hot.
Talk about like just leaving like blah 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 later. That was impressive. He's like, I don't even say bye. I just walk out of the room. Holy shit.
It was a good point, though, what he was making.
2022.
No, he was rolling. I got him back for a second. Maybe he's plugged in or something. Zach,
I
you
literally-
shouldn't have came
I
back, man.
literally-
You left excellently. Now you walk back
Yeah,
in the room to say, I'm just kidding, guys. I'll see you later. I'll see you tomorrow.
That's literally what I'm doing. I got 2% battery. Guys, keep moving forward, keep forging ahead, and don't quit. The path is hard, the road is narrow, on the way, and we're going. Let's move.
Yeah. Well, put your Bitcoin address down in the comments so we can have people donate so you can buy a phone charger. Let's go.
He's out. I'm not letting him back in if he comes back. Look, when we look at, planning out the years and wrapping up the years, there are so many people who are like, oh, I'm gonna start doing this thing and I'm gonna really get it locked in. And like people will dunk on him. Who are you to have a New Year's resolution, pussy? Be a man. Real men don't make resolutions. Man, if you're gonna start focusing on being a better father and being more intentional as a father, if you're gonna be like, all right, 2021 is the year I stop yelling and hitting my kids, good. You really, really should start. It is past time, if we're being honest. We've had too many discussions, especially if you're following us. Anthony and I, we've put content out. I mean, I don't know how many videos we have, but it's a lot. And then that was quick. And so for you to come here and to see those videos and listen to us talk, but not apply it, it's almost the biggest and weakest act an individual can take. I want to learn to be great, but not actually be great. I want to learn to connect with my family, but not actually do it because that requires too much work. Your life will never change, and you will find yourself sitting here on December 30th, 2022, in the exact same boat. And I'll have these exact same men on, and they'll talk about the things they did. Marcel will have his individual trips that they went on with the kids. Jay will be sitting here talking about how, hey, we found different routes and different bacon, and he's loving it. And then Jimmy's going to have 19 more plaques and awards of all the things his kids have been doing. And his arms will be twice as big as his head. And, you'll be sitting there doing literally what you're doing right now, hoping that somebody else will change your life. And that's not how it works. You have to do it. So I'm not going to dunk on New Year's resolutions, but I am going to say, if you're not going to follow them, if you're not going to apply the things, you really need to ask yourself what you're doing. What are you doing on here? Why are you spending your time just sitting here listening to us if you're not going to apply it? That's why we do what we do. It's not to talk about it. It's not just a circle jerk. It's not just, hey guys, look how great you are as dads. Look how great I am as a dad. No, this is almost an open public meeting. We're having a meeting. You're watching it. And then we're going to go exchange notes and go about our business. And sometimes it's more intentional, but it's end of year, baby. We're wrapping up. I mean, it's been a year. I have like I have a scroll that I could throw and it would run down the whole thing of things that have happened. Good, bad, everything in between. And all I look at it is it's just another year.
And that's just July.
Dude, it's a busy month. But when you look at it, man, honestly, I could not be more proud of just the growth in my family. We've had the big move. That's a big milestone for us. And the way they're adapting, the way we handled it together. I see myself experiencing the joys of what we talk about. And I truly want to bottle that shit up and just give it away. And that's what I'm trying to do through this. That's one of the greatest fuels for this is, hey, how can we help them? And, Anthony and I don't have many discussions on, well, what's the hot topic we could hit or what's this? It's always, how can we get better at getting this to being applied? How can we deliver a message in a better way to where these men will connect with it? And so we're taking a lot of different angles on that. And you're going to see a lot of opportunities coming down the pipeline in 2022 through Oak and Rock and through our individual platforms. But most importantly, we're going to continue to push that message of acting on verba, present fathers. We're working on getting men to just show up. That's 90% of if you're just there, that's what they want and need. And from there, you can figure it out, and for some men with babies, get down to their level. Let them smell you, apparently. For guys with teenagers, we had Jared on here and he was talking about, hey, we slipped up a little bit, but we're course correcting. It's never too late to start, but damn, if you don't start, I don't know what to tell you. You have to be ready to do the work. And I promise you, your family's worth it.
Yeah. Cause by the time you have that thought, right, you're like, you have the thought about doing something. Sorry, I'm laughing at Anthony. Don't
encourage him.
You have the thought that you want to do something, but right the moment you have that thought, you're kind of already late, right? So the stuff that we've been talking about right? We started earlier. We started, whether it's earlier this year, in 2019, in 2015, like whenever it was, right, was when we were thinking about these things, and we've achieved what we've achieved to this point because we decided to do that work then. And so, but everybody's got to start somewhere. So if you're watching this video and this is the thing, and the end of year, beginning of a new year is the catalyst that makes you go, you know what, I'm gonna do this thing, then so be it. I you know, starting is the important thing, and whether you do it, you shouldn't have to wait until a milestone date, but if that helps you jump off that diving board quicker, faster, whatever, then so be it.
Yeah, man. I will add, we hear a lot of fathers, a lot of men talk about goals and improving and getting better, right? New Year's resolutions and all these things that we can do to become better and stronger men. I just wanted to add, over the last 2 years being in the fraternity, there's one thing that has stood out to me the most about what it means to be a good man, and how I see that shaping out in the world is when I talk to fathers and I tell them, hey, listen, there's better ways you can improve as a father, you can get better, and they listen, take action, and they actually change their lives. To me, right, that is what a good man is. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius, right? Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. It's, to me, that is, being a good man is being a good father. But all the other goals that we have in life, whether you want to get more fit, whether you want to make more money, you have your whole life for that, right? You have your children only for a set period. So it's real important that we dial that in and we stay focused. And when we say we want to be a good father, we actually take the action to move forward and get it done. Marcel said it earlier, right? This year, his main focus was kids. Man, that makes me proud as hell to hear this man come on here and say that. How many fathers do you ever hear say that, right? My life, my focus this year was on my kids, was on my family. That's it. He didn't need to say anything else after that.
One of the biggest things, I'm not sure if it's a comeback or if it's a quip or what it falls under, and I don't really care. I'm just going to say it. It's that, well, you say you do anything for your kids. I do anything for my kids. And you see them and they're obese and they stay obese. You see them and they're angry and they stay angry. They're ignoring their kids and they keep ignoring their kids. You would do anything for your kids. Why not do something for your kids? Start there. If you would do I would die for them. They don't want you to die for them. They want you to live for them. They want you to live with them. And I'm not saying that your children are the point of your life, but they're a significant part of your life. You can't wake up and say, my sole purpose for breathing in this earth is those children. Well, no, because that puts an unfair pressure on them to perform. Now they have to live to a certain standard so dad feels like he has worth. No. But you see a man like Marcel, all the men in this panel, all the men that have come through the Oak and Rock, Rolodex of just guests looking to share their message about fatherhood. Each one of them is doing as much as they possibly can for themselves and their children. They're not going to go out and die for their children. They're going to live their absolute best life for their children. It's easier to take a bullet than it is to take the time to sit down and have a conversation about something that's uncomfortable. Dying's quick and then it's over. Sitting down and having that talk and then looking to see how your child plays out in their life and they have to come back to you. Dad, your advice was wrong. They didn't do what you said they would do. That's hard to hear because you think you've got them, you're giving them the tools and it doesn't play out. And you're like, man, I want to give you the perfect world. I want to give you the template to win. But the world, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes it's unfair. Sometimes you lose. And you've got to see your kid rise from the ashes. Well, everybody loves to see that part. Did you see your kid get lit on fire? Did you see him get flamed out because they got wrecked by their friends or because they did something poor in the sports team? They're the receiver who dropped the ball in the end zone to win the game. You got to talk to your kid after that. How do you build them back up after those little events that are big to them? That is one of the most important things. So to hear you say that, Marcel, and then Anthony recognizing it, that's absolutely correct. That's why we're doing the things we're doing. So men can start living for their kids, start living their best life and finding their best self and being comfortable saying, hey guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I was raised a certain way and it was not the best way. And I want to raise somebody better, but I don't know how. because I'm a 40-something-year-old man and I'm afraid to go and talk to somebody else about this because I'm embarrassed. If we can remove that stigma, dude, people will just ask the question and say, hey, I need help. I don't know how to talk to my daughter. I don't know how to talk to my son. As a kid, I didn't get that. And as a man, I've never had anybody show me. And so now I have a child of my own and they don't know what to do. That's okay. We'll get there. We'll work with it. We actually have videos on that, to be honest. But we can work with you. You just got to reach out. That's what these guys do all the time. People, Jimmy was the one who coined this. I've used it a million times. I probably owe you a shit ton if you trademarked it. But, you know, when you're running with guys inside FoE,
I need to.
You know, the whole social media platform is just some amazing like shining diamonds. Everything's great. And you go in FoE and we're like, hey, this is where I suck. And this is what I'm working on. And this is what I'm building. And people are just sharing everything. And it's like, this is nothing like you see in social media, but it's the most real thing in the world because people can actually share what's going on. And they actually work towards actualized success and actualized connection instead of the appearance of happiness through smiles on Facebook. So it's just important that we keep things freaking real. I don't know why I'm censoring myself now. I've sworn enough already. Hey, let's bounce this one around. Let's talk about your final words and I guess your final points and what you're going to be coming or what you're going to be doing in 2022. So I'm going to go Marcel, then Jay, Jimmy, Anthony, then myself. So Marcel, final words and your 2022 little send-off or 2021 send-off.
So I submit to a lot of the conversations I think we've had. Obviously, is everyone tries to apply how it might affect their specific situation, right? So everybody thinks they're very unique. I have 4 kids, 2 are twins. I walked into this thinking I could pound the table and say, none of you understand what I'm going through, right? And it's interesting because there's an instinct in all of us. And if you don't really fall into that, it's what I want to point to is that with things improving in the role that I'm in right now as a father of 4 kids, all these small moves that I have made, it's almost as if I've answered this instinct to be a strong father in the family. And I've got to submit that, you know, even if you're looking at it for your own self-improvement, separate from the impact it has on the kids, it really, really has been very positive in every other aspect of my life. My marriage, my, performance at work, I'm sleeping better. I mean, across the board. And the reason for that, honestly, is because I really hadn't addressed it the way I did over the last year. I mean, there's something in every man that wants to answer the call to be a good father, but there's no real instruction manual. Maybe we have our own fathers that taught us a few things along the way. But I will tell you, about a year ago at this point, it's almost as if there's some sort of incongruency that was going on in my life, and holy shit, I lost a lot of sleep over it, right? You're seeing moments lost where you don't speak the kid's language. Or I used this analogy before where I would do certain things, and now I watch the old version of me run right by. Like where I would normally shut my kid down quickly and say, not now, not allowed to do this. I will pause. I'll pick up on a cue that I never knew existed. And now that cue will throw me into a certain mode where I know how to talk to them. I'll reduce myself to their level, or I'll come back to it, maybe not address it right now. I'll come back to it the next day. These little things, when you look at them, the sum total of all of them can completely change your relationship with all of your children. And selfishly, if you're looking at it from your own personal benefit, it takes a huge load off your back. So I would just say, people aren't recognizing the impact of what it means to actually take a step forward and actually have things you can point to as a good dad. It can change everything. That's why I think so when I'm summarizing what I'm going to do for the next year, I want to fly, because the biggest weight has been lifted off my back. I feel that I'm in a spot now where I can, in fact, do 10 things I probably wouldn't have been able to pull off in my career and my job. I'm going to take a whole lot more risk in a lot of things because I know my home life is now soon to be granite, and that means a lot. So I would submit to many people that this is probably more impactful in your future personally, more than just even your children, to hit it the right way. Second, the other thing I would throw out is a litmus test for a lot of dads, which I did when I started up with all this. When you're around other men, pay attention to how often fathers will complain about their sons or their children or their daughters or whomever it might be. They'll complain about their kids, and they won't talk about what they're going to do about it, or if they even know how to do about it, if they know the steps to take. It's very unusual to find a group of men that are willing to talk openly about what they want to do to improve their relationship with their kids. You don't find that almost anywhere. You just find, dads doing the machismo thing where they're complaining about their family life. That is something that, and that honestly, once it stands out to you, you realize how incongruent that really is, how unusual that is. It shouldn't be that way. So I would challenge men, even if you're not necessarily going to proactively join any big group, whatever you might end up doing, throw a grenade into the next time you're out with all of your guys and ask them how their, relationships are with their children. What are they doing? What are their goals? How are you going to improve that? How are you going to fix that? Ask all these open-ended questions that are constructive, as opposed to just smacking down how hard it is to be a dad, which it is. Believe me, I'm right there with you. For next year, man, I think if I'm just throwing out for the next year, we're going to probably move. I'm going to likely follow the lead of some other guys on this call. I know that I think I've got a good baseline for my kids. What I want to do is, when I say let them fly, I don't think that the place I'm living right now is enough specifically for one of my kids, which all of you probably know which one. So I need more dirt. I need more land. I need this kid to run out into the woods and go kill something and bring it home. So that's going to be on my radar, man. That's my goal, is to give them more space. I want to let my kids run.
Marcel's going to Mars. He's going to start a colony up there. We're flying, baby. That's awesome. What I love about that, amongst, all of it. That's amazing. It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to seeing this stuff mix out. But your point on dropping that grenade on the friends, I threw in the chat, Anthony's building an army. When I talked to him, and this is way back when we first started mixing it up, he's like, yeah, how many books you read about fatherhood? I'm like, shit. Like, none? So I had nothing, man. I wrote a lot of blog posts. Does that count? No, man. How many finance books you have? And I'm looking over my shelf. Like, oh my God, I'm the guy he's talking about. So Marcel, he is now another guy. Hey guys. And then those guys are going to be like me, like, oh boy, I really got to step my game up. He's calling me out. But it's perfect, because the best men, the men you want to be around you, are the ones who respond to that with, all right, man, I see you. You got me today. You try that again in the week, though, and I'll have a book in my hand. All right, Jay, wrapping up 2021, entering 2022, final words.
All right, my final words. Going into 2022, I'm going to just basically try and keep the momentum going that I've got right now with my family, with my wife and my 3 kiddos. Individually, with each one of them, I'm going to get on their level and try to really respond to the things that I do in my life. The girls are really taking a liking to cycling, which is my main thing, and music's my other main thing. And my son really likes that. He's not so much like yet, but that's fine. So my plan for 2022 is to be on their level, to really let them experience the flow of life the way that I see it, and inspire them to do that. I don't want to have a thou shalt attitude with them. I want to, obviously encourage them to be disciplined in their life, but discipline isn't from a place of coercion. It's from a place of cooperation, so that they can see that when they're part of the family unit, that their part is as important as dad part or mom's part or the brother or sister. And that each one of us contributes to the joy of our family and what we do as a unit and a mission, to enjoy ourselves, to be happy. And I'm letting go of expectations. That's one thing that I struggled with a little bit with my son, was that I had certain expectations, whether or not it was conscious or not, it was definitely there. So I'm letting go of expectations of what I think he should be. Say with the girls, what I think they should be. I'm letting things kind of bloom, with their lives, and be a guiding voice and something that they can lean on, something that they can lean into, and be inspired by. Quote, finish it off from my favorite author is you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf. So as a father, that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. You can't control the waves of life. You can't control how things go in their minds, how they interpret things, and things they like and the things that they do, you know. But you can definitely embrace what they do and go with that. Like, you fight your opponent, you're gonna get pushed back. You can use the momentum to your advantage, you know, as a father. So that's my, and expectations. Be an inspiration to them, guide them, and let them enjoy the flow of life and see their value as a part of my family unit. So that's what it's going to do for me, in a nutshell.
I love it.
Solid goals.
Yep.
Mr. G.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm just planning on continuing forging a strong relationship with my daughters from this year into 2022, finding ways to give them choice and power through negotiation, right? By allowing them choice, by allowing them to offer alternatives so that they learn negotiation. And so parenting is more of a negotiation and less of a confrontation between me and my girls. And just some final thoughts. And much of the stress in parenting is stress of our own making, and usually issues with behavior in our kids or those sorts of things are caused by some failure further upstream. So if we take a look at what we're doing and take responsibility for parenting and our kids, we can look back and find ways. Maybe I should have spent more time with, if I spent 5 more minutes with my son or my daughter, before school, or if I did this, or if I, read one more story, or if I played a game with them, or whatever the thing is, you'll find that there are things that we do as parents that, that really can make a difference down the road. But you got to take the time in those moments. And if you happen to fail, if you happen to trip over your own feet, take a look back. What happened? What can I do better? Because if you start taking control of those things, you'll find that there'll be smooth sailing um, uh, down the road. And last but not least, have fun. Right? It's easy to get bogged down not only with parenting and with kids, but also with all the stuff going on in the world, and whether it's nationally, internationally, or in this town you live in, right? There's all kinds of drama and BS, problems with relationships, problems with family, problems with government, you name it. There's all kinds of things going on in the world, but you got to just take the time to enjoy life. You're alive, you have kids. It's lots of fun, and it can be fun. And just remember to enjoy the process, because sometimes it's easy to get bogged down by it.
Yeah, man. Parenting, fatherhood should be fun, Jim. That's something I don't think we said yet tonight. And no,
Exactly.
honestly, right? We should recognize that. You got to have a good time with your kids and enjoy the time you spend with them. I'm up next, Zac. 2022 goals. You know what? 21 was crazy. We've spoken about this a lot, and I feel like a lot of the goals that I set in 21 got sidetracked. With injuries and just moving, and life was crazy. So for 22, I'm just going to continue on the path. I'm going to keep building my legacy. My kids are older, so I don't have to worry about teeth brushing and bedtime anymore. But I do see, new trials or new things that pop up that I have to learn about, right? That I've never faced before. So I think that's part of life, right? That's every year there's going to be new things that I have to learn, I have to adapt. Um, this year I just had shoulder surgery two weeks ago. 22, I gotta learn to get back in the gym, right? I gotta rehab, I gotta get healthy, and it's been a tremendous struggle to not have that in my life. It's been something that's beaten me up. So I look forward to getting back at it and getting on top of that, and lifting the weights and feeling strong again. But I think ultimately, with fatherhood and what we're doing, Oak and Rock, my goal, and this is something that's been this is a goal that's been for a long time. It started in my home, started with my own kids, but I really believe that the way we change the world, the way that we make the world better, is by raising happy and healthy kids. I don't think there's anything else that's going to be more effective, that's going to be more positive, and is going to help the world get better. All the crap and shit that we see is by raising kids who are going to add value to the world, who are going to grow up, who are going to be good human beings, who are going to create their own families. And that's, to me, that's part of the goal, is just to keep spreading this message, right? Me and you keep doing videos, keep having conversations with fathers, and spreading the word on how powerful this is. Because like we said earlier, a lot of men are not talking about it. A lot of men aren't reading the parenting books. What Marcel said before, right? Throwing a grenade, and, push your circles to be fathers. Have those conversations. Bring it to the table, because not because it's what men should do, but because it's important. It's important to raise strong and healthy kids for the next generation. If we really want legacy, that's how it's going to continue. We're going to die. Our kids are going to carry it on. So it's important that we make sure we're raising our kids right.
No, absolutely, man. And you made a good point there. How do you improve the future? Well, you improve those who are going to be living in it. We don't have as long as our kids do. We don't have the same amount of time that they do. And so the things that we're doing now are going to far transcend who we are and what it is that we've been doing. That's Oak and Rock. And the way I see this playing out, man, in the Family Alpha, that's where I'm putting my thoughts to the page. I'm getting the types out. I'm getting the masculine in marriage, and men, fatherhood, all these things. But in Oak and Rock, that's the direct link. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to do in this coming year. People, they get these ideas. They're like, no, maybe I'll write a book. Dude, I cannot even begin to comprehend what I'm looking to do with you through this, on this platform, out into the fucking world, man. It's the greatest motivation that one can have. You want to connect. You want to share the gift that you've been given. It's not that, oh, I got this all figured out, but it's like, I'm living a really good life and my family's locked together and we're all having a good time. And those suffering around us are doing so preventably. It's not that you get rid of all suffering by being a better parent, but you certainly get rid of the preventable suffering. Life is going to be hard enough on its own. Don't make it harder on yourself. Don't make it harder on your children. Invest in them. With the men inside the Fraternity of Excellence and what we're doing with Oak and Rock, we are changing the world. That is how my 2021 is ending, and my 2022 will carry on. That is changing the world. That is changing people's lives. We're watching it happen. And I don't think that's even that bold of a statement. If anything, I think I'm being a little reserved right now. Just looking at there's only 4 of us on right now. And the things I can say collectively we have done, I will not say because that is for our private group, but I will say this publicly. It has been mind, body, spirit across the board in every possible aspect of a man's life. We have dug deep, flipped the rocks over, looked at what was underneath it, grabbed the skeletons out of the closet, thrown them into the truth of the light, and just gotten after it every single day. We have fallen, we've gotten back up. You were talking about your shoulder surgery. I saw you get wrecked. We did a video right after that. That was the dedication you had to this. And I see stuff like that. I'm like, dude, if he can do this, I can do this. I'm not going to bitch about this. We got work to do. There are dads out there expecting that video to come out. There are men out there saying, hey, dude, your video has helped me with my kids. How many of those messages have we gotten? Your videos, your content on Peaceful Fathers, your blog posts on the Family Alpha, you helped with my marriage. And now it's much better for the kids. That's real. We have no idea how far these ripples go, but we do know that if you stop throwing rocks into that lake and those ripples stop spreading, the men who need it stop receiving the help they need. And so therefore we have to keep going. And so to Marcel's point on flying, dude, I'm in the boat of more. We just have to keep doing it. We got to do more. I keep thinking I'm at the apex of what I can put out, and I'm like, I'm not even trying, because once you hit that barrier, you're like, no, I can definitely do more. I just got to get rid of this one little anchor, get rid of that habit. Oh, now look how much faster I can go, how much better I can go, how we get better at the product, the quality of the content being put out. There's nothing that's going to slow this thing down. The world went as crazy as it could go in 2021. It's going to go crazier in 2022, and we're just going to produce better content in spite of it. So that's how I'm finishing this year and starting the next one. It's just, you really have to think about all the things that have gone on to hold us down, and yet here we are still standing. Everyone has found every distraction and every reason to justify their slide to the left or slide to the right. Very few have stood in the middle of the road and said, no, I'm going in this direction. I will not stop. There's where I'm going. This is what we're doing. And through the content on the blog, the written content, the future products to be dropped inside the Fraternity of Excellence, as we continue to grow and help the men that need it through these methods and means, we can't help but win. Because 90% of that, again, is just showing up, and more men are showing up. Our subscribers are growing. The views are growing. The people having this discussion are growing. Other channels. We got all the dudes on Dad Twitter. This movement is growing before our eyes. And I've said it a few times. I'll say it one last time. We are in the middle of the movement, and rarely do you realize that that's happening. Rarely do you know, like, holy shit, something big's going on. No, we're on that wave as it's swelling up. I just can't wait to see, in 2022, where these dads take it, where these families go, and what these fathers are going to do, man. I'm pumped.
It's crazy to think that it's the radical thing is to raise your kids right. Have kids, have a family. Like, that's the radical idea.
Don't hit your kids
Right?
as extremist.
It is extreme.
All right, gentlemen.
But it's awesome.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
For everybody.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother, for kicking this thing off. We talked about who's the oak and who's the rock. We alternate. We're gonna finally answer that question. Every other video, we'll swap who's the oak and who's the rock. Marcel, thank you for coming on, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Is that a semi-chuck? No. All right, guys. You guys had a great year. To all those who tuned in, that have liked, subscribed, and shared, we appreciate you more than you know. We got to keep the message going, and that's how we spread it out there. So if you like what we're doing, if you're picking up what we're putting down, make sure you hit that button, because that helps us disseminate the information to other fathers. And if nothing else, hey, just go in and start talking about fatherhood with your friends and your family. Make it more normal to talk about being a great dad. Until then, we'll see you guys in 2022. Gentlemen, you stay well. And to those watching, I'll see you next year. Take care.